Okay, so we are 5 minutes past the schedule time, so I think it's a good time to start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on the location you're attending this from. My name is Rishabh. I'm super glad to see you all here for this tutorial, and it's I think the first time we are doing this tutorial in a virtual fashion. The last time we had this tutorial was an in-person conference, Rexus 2019, and we had a lot of fun giving this tutorial, and it was a very informative and also interactive tutorial because this is a topic which touches upon a lot of different industries across different domains. So we are hoping that this edition of the tutorial will be better than the previous one. And feel free to use the chat, the Zoom chat, to kind of ask questions in between. I have another set of screen wherein I'm monitoring the chat. And I would prefer like us not to wait until the end of the tutorial to kind of discuss questions and any comments or anything you want to bring up. So this is a full day tutorial. The tutorial is titled Advances in Recommender Systems, and it consists of two parts. The first part focuses on recommendations in a multi-stakeholder environment. So this is recommendations in a marketplace setting, wherein we have multiple stakeholders. And the second part of the tutorial, which is in the second half of the day, will be presented by our collaborators, and that will be focused on automated Rexes. So AutoML style approaches applied to recommendation problems. So the website for this tutorial is given on the slide. It should also be visible weirdly in the background I have. Apologies for the background because it's something which I just hurriedly created right before we start the tutorial. So this tutorial is with my colleague at Spotify, Ben Cartwright, and we're gonna span about 3.5 hours worth of material. We'll take a half an hour break. I'll come back to the schedule in a bit after giving the introduction. So my name is Rishabh. I'm a senior research scientist with Spotify in London. I did my PhD from UCL in London. And before that, I was doing my undergrad back in BITS Pilani in India. During my PhD, I visited Microsoft Research a few times. I also founded a startup, usercontext.ai, which does not exist anymore. And prior to all of this, I was in the finance domain working for Goldman Sachs. I would also like to introduce Ben Cartwright. I think he's on the call.
Hey, thanks, Rishabh. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not going to turn on my video right now because I'm at home with a newborn baby, but I just wanted to give a quick introduction. So I'm Ben Carteret. I'm a research manager at Spotify. And prior to joining Spotify in 2017, I was a professor at the University of Delaware and completed my PhD at UMass Amherst. I'm here kind of for moral support. I think Rishabh's going to be presenting the bulk of the tutorial, but if there are questions, comments, if opportunities for me to jump in, I'm happy to do so. So back to you, Rishabh.
Cool. Also, congratulations from all our behalf to Ben for the new baby. So that's good news.
Thank you.
So, so in this tutorial, we're going to cover like 5 different aspects. So this tutorial is conveniently divided into 5 parts. In the first part, we're going to begin by talking about introduction to marketplaces. So, I mean, again, marketplaces, multi-stakeholder platforms, these are terms which we're going to use exchangeably. We're going to then focus another half an hour on optimization objectives. Like we're going to give us a few case studies and look at what kind of objectives we could be optimizing for. Then we're going to move on to methods, which we can use to optimize some of those objectives which we mentioned in part 2. And then we're going to look at some other related work, which is more like supporting work, which can help us understand users, suppliers, and content better in order to do a better job at recommendations in a marketplace. And then I'm going to close by discussing a few very recent industrial applications from across the industries and different domains just to give an idea on how different companies and different problem domains are thinking about some of these related problems. So specifically, what I'm going to do is like in the next 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to walk through so I'm going to walk through around what is exactly in this tutorial so that like you guys find the motivation to stick around until the end. So essentially, in the introduction, we're going to talk about traditional recommendation system approaches. I'm going to do a very bad job at summarizing 2 decades of Rex's work into 5 minutes, and then introduce marketplaces, talk about examples and types of marketplaces. And this would give us a segue into the rest of the tutorial. So I'm going to visibly walk through some of the upcoming sections and try to link it all together. So again, like the motivation here is to give the background context from which you should be viewing the different parts and different materials covered in this tutorial. With that, we'll go on to a few case studies, wherein I'm going to pick up some of these upcoming or existing billion-dollar unicorn companies or even startups, and consider those case studies to motivate what kind of objectives we should be looking at and how should we be thinking about picking up these objectives. And then I'm going to pitch a bit around just looking at the interplay between objectives. So how are the objectives related to each other? And when we do multi-objective optimization, then what might we be expecting from these objectives? Then we're going to go on to methods for multi-objective ranking and recommendations. So here we're going to look at define the Pareto optimality aspect. And then I'm going to present a few approaches around multitask learning, scalarization, some recent work around multi-objective bandits, some history around multi-objective RL specifically. After that, we're going to look at how can we better improve these systems by leveraging understanding from the user perspective, from the supplier perspective and content perspective. So we have a few of these examples, some recent papers from a few different companies, including us at Spotify, on how do we better leverage these understanding to enrich our core models and core systems. And then I'm going to go back to the industrial applications, talk about some search and recommendation applications to drive home the point. So that's the schedule. We started intentionally a bit late, like 5 minutes late. So what I'm hoping to do is, like in the first half an hour, give the background on marketplaces and quickly jump on to the optimization objectives. We're going to have a half an hour break, which ideally should start at like 9:30 based on the PDT time. And then I want to finish like at least half an hour early so that we can have a lot of questions. Keep a note of questions, just keep on pinging on the chat as well. There's a question right now around the slides. So slides are not yet posted, but what I'm going to do is, like in the break, I'm going to upload these slides to the website provided. So sorry about like keeping you waiting for 1.5 hours for the slides. Cool. So let's look at a quick overview of traditional recommendation approaches. So here, let's say like we take a step back and go 1.5 decades ago, and a lot of the effort around then was focused on developing collaborative filtering style approaches. So we have a matrix of users and items, which we can decompose using matrix factorization and get a user and item vectors. And then we can do cosine similarities or nearest neighbor search on this. We then thought about extending these matrices to tensors. So a matrix could only incorporate information from two parties. Now, if we can extend it to a tensor, then we can have information from multiple stakeholders encoded. So there is some work around tensor factorization. So we also have a paper wherein we consider the user, the task they're doing, the different topics, create a tensor. A tensor is an extension of a matrix. So matrix is a 2-dimensional array. Tensor could be a 3 or more dimensional array as such. And essentially, like when we are doing tensor decompositions, then it allows us this flexibility of like doing a joint decomposition with the matrix as well. So if you look at the example on the bottom right, so there's a tensor, and the tensor shares the user dimension with a matrix as well. So now suddenly we have the ability to kind of create our own structures of matrices and tensors and do decompositions on those to learn the representations of users and items. Quickly going on, again, we've spent as a community over 1.5 decades on using latent variable models. So, I mean, they came into existence from one of those seminal papers from David Blee's group around latent Dirichlet allocation, typically used for topic models. But then we've spent a lot of time in encoding our intuitions behind some of these latent variable models. And a lot of like PhD theses have happened because of our flexibility to encode these things in a latent variable model. So there's a very nice Rex's 2015 paper, which talks about like just one of those many examples wherein people have used like latent variable models to address the recommendation challenges. Cool. So moving beyond, then the community has done work on embeddings. So based on the famous paper from Thomas Miklov around word embeddings, we started to think that, okay, let's just create user embeddings. But we did not stop. We said, okay, when we are creating user embeddings, we can add side information as well. So once we have side information, then that's a richer sort of embedding, which we will hopefully learn the representations for. And then we thought, okay, there's a very nice Wisdom 2017 paper on doing a joint embeddings for users and items. So essentially here, we're taking user review and item review and then passing it through parallel networks, and they're trained using a common loss function. So essentially, what we've done is we've taken the approach of learning Word2Vec style embeddings, and we've added site information, we've added the item context, and we've enriched it a lot. But if we take a step back, then there are now typically two major approaches, right? One is a collaborative filtering style approach. The other one is a neural embedding style approach. So there's a very nice paper from WWW 2017, which kind of combines the benefits of both. So this is a neural collaborative filtering. And this paper kind of considers, kind of combines the collaborative filtering aspect and the embedding aspect. So there essentially is a user latent vector and an item latent vector, and they are passed through a joint combination of neural layers, and then we kind of have a score, which is the kind of rating or the interaction prediction, whatever you might want to call it. And then we train that network end to end. So essentially, this network combines the benefit of traditional matrix factorization and neural embeddings to offer both of these together. Again, like these are some approaches, but there have been variants of the recommendation styles. So there is some work looking at short-term and long-term user profiles. So we need not consider the entire history of users, and maybe we want to consider short-term profiles and long-term profiles. So a nice paper in Search Community at Sigaya 2012 is cited below. We can also think about cohort-based user modeling. So if we have a cold start problem, then we care about not just users, but also we care about the groups of users. And for those groups, we can do some cohort modeling. We also can look at multi-view and multi-interest models. So there's a nice 2013 Rexis paper which says that a user need not have just one kind of interest. So maybe there's a computer which multiple people are using together, or maybe a user has different kind of personalities, wherein sometimes they want certain type of content, and other times they're with family, they might want different type of content. So this paper has explored the view of multi-interest models. And then like multitask recommendations have taken quite a flight in recent years. A very nice paper from 2013, KDD, same conference, around how do we learn representations using multiple e-commerce tasks. But if we take a step back, then if you look at the history of the different approaches which we have taken as a community to develop these recommender systems, then there is something in common. And the common aspect over here is the focus on user-centric systems. So all of these approaches learn user representations, user embeddings, and they are built to cater to user needs. Like we try to understand user interest, we look at user behaviors, we look at interactions, we look at how can we personalize these offerings to users. And in terms of evaluation as well, we've looked at measuring user engagement, optimizing for user satisfaction. We have developed user-centric methods and metrics. So again, intentionally, the focus has mostly been on how do we make these systems perfect for the user. And if you're interested in some of these engagement and metric style thing, there's a Wisdom tutorial, and there's also a tutorial at KDD 2020, which is happening in parallel around metrics of user engagement. But yeah, the question then is like, is caring about the user enough? And while we have spent 2 decades in developing systems which are mostly user-centric, but a lot of the companies which are coming up now are not just user-centric companies, right? I mean, if you look at, let's say, eBay. So on eBay, you can sell stuff. So there are retailers. On Uber, we have drivers. So while we do want to make sure that the users are happy, we also want to make sure that not just the user, but also the suppliers and other stakeholders in the marketplace are happy too. So essentially, this is the main question which we ask in this tutorial and in this line of work. That is caring about the user enough. So far, our objectives and our methods and our metrics has intentionally been user-centric. And here, we want to pitch that there are often these 2-sided and 3-sided marketplaces wherein you have to go beyond just user-centric thinking. So yeah, so that's the point. Like perhaps user-centric methods is not sufficient to serve recommendations in such scenarios. So this is where I want to quickly jump through some of the introduction to marketplaces. So marketplace essentially is an intermediary that helps facilitate economic interaction between 2 or more sets of agents. So examples are like eBay, Netflix, Airbnb is a bit cool example, Yelp, YouTube, Amazon, TripAdvisor, LinkedIn, all these companies are essentially multi-stakeholder platforms. And they have not been just new things. I mean, marketplaces have existed since humans have existed almost, right? I mean, we began to engage in village markets to go and buy fruits and vegetables. There are shopping malls. So shopping mall is also a physical marketplace wherein like people are going and you have different shops and you can buy stuff. Stock markets is another one of those marketplaces. So essentially, we have moved away from those physical marketplaces to a lot of these like online marketplaces wherein we have marketplaces in the education domain, in recruitment domain, in consumer goods, home services, B2B, hospitality, delivery, crowdfunding, finance, transportation, health, food, and literally everything. So this is a motivation that the kind of technical stuff, the algorithms, the thinking we are talking about in this tutorial is not just limited to a search system or a recommendation system. You have multiple systems which are powering marketplaces and across multiple domains. And this kind of thinking is helpful when you think about algorithmic frameworks in all of these domains. So the marketplaces have evolved. I mean, we started with like in-store Walmart style marketplaces, and now we've kind of gone to TaskRabbit style marketplaces, where if you have a service, you can ask somebody to do that task for you. There are skill-centric marketplaces, and even to like professional services marketplaces. So I'm just going to rush through some of this introduction and just give a few examples of the different types of marketplaces. And in general, like we can divide marketplace into different factors based on many fronts. So one could be the need basis. Like, I mean, what's the coverage of customers? Who is participating? What are the offerings? What is the control the marketplace platform exerts? The management approach, transaction regularity. So again, like there could be horizontal platforms, vertical platforms. So vertical platform focus on one problem, like Uber. So Uber focuses on driving. Airbnb focuses on accommodation. Whereas horizontal platforms facilitate exchanges in multiple categories. So things like Amazon and Walmart, they're not specific to one type of domain and category. They're kind of pretty horizontal in what they offer. We have marketplaces based on participants. So the platform could be B2B, C2C, B2C, crowdfunding, e-commerce, peer-to-peer, auction platforms, and so on. So based on who is using and who are they selling stuff to, we have multiple types of platforms, which we should think about. Just a few examples, like B2C is booking.com, Amazon is business to customer, business to business is Alibaba, there's tradeindia.com as a company. Customer to customer, these are like peer-to-peer things wherein like if I have a car, I can go to Turo and rent my car. So there are these customer to customer marketplaces as well. In terms of offering, there are marketplaces based on information offered, like Twitch, YouTube. These are videos and information content. Goods style marketplaces are Amazon, eBay. Services are Uber, Airbnb, Couchsurfing, and even like Kickstarter style funding and investment style marketplaces. In general, control is important. And again, when we are developing recommendation models, then oftentimes the marketplace has very limited or very more powerful control over the platform. So we can divide marketplaces based on control and functionality. So there could be centralized control or distributed control. So we can divide marketplaces based on whether they are closed or focused or censored or really open marketplaces. So just a quick examples in terms of management style. So if you look at Etsy, so these are peer-to-peer transactions. They have low transaction fees. And in general, the trust in transactions is guided based on reviews and ratings. If you look at Uber or Grubhub, these provide some sort of protection for users. They're kind of technology tools which make the services available at scale. And some of these are really fully managed, wherein the platform owners control literally each and everything on that platform. So the operator mediates the transactions, the whole process is managed, and they can then offer superior customer service as well. So again, why do we care about all these things? The reason we care about all these things is because based on the openness of the platform, based on the control you have on the platform, you will have to decide on what kind of models do you want and what kind of control you want to exert on top of your customers. So some of these transactions could be one-off, like Airbnb or Uber. I book a cab, I go to one place and the other, and then that's it. Or some of these could be repeated transactions. So the probability of the user returning to the platform is higher for repeat transactions than one-off, perhaps. So in general, we've seen so much around the examples of marketplaces, the different domains of marketplaces. Now, how is it related to recommendations? So the main pitch point I want to make right now is that the success of a marketplace is based on its ability to match consumers and suppliers. And this is where the entire problem of this tutorial, like recommendations in a marketplace, comes into play. So because we have so many services, so many users, and so many suppliers, there is no way in which we can expect a user to come and find the relevant material himself. So that's why recommendations play a key role in the success of these platforms. So in this slide, what we are doing is like we're looking at a multi-sided problem. So we not only have users, but we have different stakeholders. So what really does that mean? So the user could be, the stakeholders could be users, or it could be the drivers, advertisers, campaigns, host, platform provider, and each of the stakeholder has multiple objectives. So the user cares, I mean, for user-centric, we care about, let's say, streams, or how engaged a user is. Is the user having retention or other proxies of user satisfaction? In terms of the platform objectives, it could be exposure, that we want to expose to different suppliers. We want to grow their audiences. We care about revenue of the suppliers, diversity of content. So there are multiple objectives for different stakeholders which we care about. So let's see what an example of an algorithm might look like. A very simple thing, let's say we consider a homepage of any media company, and we have a few cards or few playlists to pick. Now we can pick a playlist based on, let's say, a user-centric method. Now this is not enough, because hopefully I've convinced you so far that we have to think about multiple different stakeholders. So this is where, if we have multiple stakeholders, so I'm going to come back to this figure quite often. So this is a user. On the top right, we have the different stakeholders. These could be the artist, the host on Airbnb, the taxi driver. There could be others involved, like labels and delivery partners for Uber Eats. There could be platforms like Uber, Airbnb, eBay, and so on. So the recommendation strategy should necessarily be a function of inputs from all these stakeholders. So just a user-centric system is not enough. So then we should think about going from a user-centric optimization to multi-sided optimization. So here we have objectives and inputs coming in from the suppliers, the platform economics, the users, and other stakeholders. And this is where the algorithms are needed. Like, how do we do this at scale? So what we want to do is we want to find optimal recommendations which satisfy multiple objectives coming in from multiple stakeholders. So with this, I just want to end the introduction and go on to the actual technical stuff, looking at the specific objectives to optimize for, by just giving you a quick background on visuals, kind of stitching all of these together. So we have the user, and the user has different satisfaction objectives. There is user understanding, there is like user expectations on what the platforms should be doing. We have the suppliers, and we care about supply exposure, we care about supplier goals, and so on. We have the platform. So we have the platform objectives, we have the platform long-term value, like the platform has to remain in existence and support a healthy, sustainable platform. So we have platform objectives. We should consider all of these together and then do some sort of algorithmic balancing, that we want to show recommendations, not just based on user, but also keeping in mind that we have multiple stakeholders, including the suppliers and the platform itself. Now, when we are doing this, we can leverage understanding about users, understanding about content, understanding about suppliers, and so on. And finally, we can include all of this to actually show recommendations to users and then evaluate our models end to end. And this is exactly how today's tutorial is organized. So we start by first talking about the different optimization objectives. And in this part, we ask the question that what do different stakeholders care about? So there could be user-centric objectives, there could be supplier-centric objectives, there could be platform-centric objectives as well. So in the second part of the tutorial, we're going to talk about the different case studies, 7 case studies, and look at different examples of objectives. In part 3 of the tutorial, we're going to focus on multi-objective methods. So how do we make multiple considerations when we are recommending content? So we have to make multiple predictions via multitask models. We have to develop multi-objective models. In the fourth part of the tutorial, we're going to talk about how can we leverage user and content understanding. So here, the point is that we want to consider user traits and also stakeholder objectives to personalize content. So like understanding about, is the user open to diverse content, or is this an opportunity for us to surface a tail supplier here? So somebody who's not getting a lot of exposure, then can we surface a tail retailer or a tail artist in our recommendations? So all of these things go into the understanding of users and content and suppliers, which we can use. And finally, we're going to talk about some industrial applications. So that's the tutorial for you, overview. Like we're going to start by looking at stakeholders and objectives. We're going to then go to methods for multi-objective recommendations. We're going to then move on to how can we leverage understanding about users and suppliers, and then talk about industrial applications. So yeah, that is a quick, I think we're on time, exactly on time. The takeaway messages from a non-technical introduction is mostly that the traditional recommendation methods are majorly user-centric. And there's a need to explicitly consider other stakeholders as part of your framework development thinking, algorithmic design thinking, and modeling decision thinking as well. There are different types of marketplaces, and there are many, many examples around that. And this kind of motivates the need to consider multi-objective methods and user and content understanding. So that's the schedule. We are kind of on track. We've completed the first part of introduction. Now I'm going to switch to the second part, which talks about the stakeholders and objectives. Okay, if you have